What's up guys, welcome back. I think we can all agree that ring push-ups are the best chest movement of all time. Not only do you have the chance to do a movement that has a high range of motion, because with rings you're maximizing the range of motion, you can go as deep as you comfortably can. Also, it fits your own anthropometry due to the freedom of movement that rings offer. You can bias different parts of the chest in just one movement by adjusting just the hand position. If you go supinated, you're going to target more of the upper chest, and then when you go neutral, in my experience, I target the chest as a whole, and then when going pronated, you target more of the middle and lower chest. Then you can adjust how much biasing towards the chest you want by adjusting the straps, right? The wider the straps, or the more far apart they are, the more chest is going to be involved. Also, on top of that, it's very safe on the shoulders, and you don't need to be super tight when performing the movement, so it is also way more comfortable to do and is less injurious. It is very convenient, you can practically do it anywhere, and you can do it weighted if you want to, but it's not necessary. By just leaning forward a little bit or elevating the feet, which is also going to have a further upper chest biasing effect, or you can do it unilaterally. By different methods in general, you can make the movement way more difficult. And today, because it is such a great movement, I'm going to give you a couple of tips that are going to allow you to maximize the benefits you get from ring push-ups. So, first of all, if you want a big chest, get a pair of rings, get a pull bar to hang them from, or if you want to go to a park and hang them there, then go ahead. But also, stay tuned for this video because the tips I'm going to give you are going to be fire. So, stay tuned. So the first tip is going to be maximize the stretch. It's going to be composed of two parts. The first one is going to be tempo, and the second one is going to be a technique modification to properly pre-stretch the chest and then keep it stretched throughout the whole movement. The first one, in terms of tempo, I know that it gets a lot of shit, but I think it has a lot of benefits in terms of injury prevention and also hypertrophy. The way we want to approach this is on the concentric, we want to explode and get into the next eccentric as fast as possible. So we explode and instantly we don't pause, we don't wait, we just instantly go back into the eccentric. Once we get into the eccentric, what we're going to do is we're going to slow it down as much as possible, really controlling the descent and really allowing our muscles to stretch under tension. And once we reach a maximum stretch position in which we're comfortable with in terms of the shoulders and in terms of the rotator cuff, we're going to pause to 2 to 4 seconds to really let it stretch, and then we explode back up. Usually people, when they do their push-ups, right, they do them like this. They just go at it, right? Well, what you want to do is really slow it down, pause for 2 to 4 seconds, then explode, get into the next eccentric as fast as possible, right? And really stretch it, slow it down, pause 2 to 4 seconds, eliminate any kind of rebound effect, then explode back up. That's going to reduce your reps by a lot. That's going to probably be like a 40% less reps, but it is way more worth it because you're going to get more tension per rep and more stimulus per rep. So the first part is tempo. The second part is going to be pre-stretching the chest. So the way we approach this is fairly simple. The way we would do a bench press, in which we retract the scapula as much as we can to keep ourselves stable and injury-free, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to borrow this, but use it to maximize hypertrophy. So we basically have our elbows extended, we retract as much as possible, right? And we're pre-stretching the chest. You can do this like this before starting every single set, but I would recommend trying this setup. You start off locked in, right? And as you go down, you progressively retract the scapula as much as possible, right? Think of doing a gravity-assisted row. Then, once we reach to our maximum stretch position, we pause for a couple of seconds to really adjust ourselves and give ourselves time to put ourselves in proper position. And then when we start to go up, to keep ourselves with our chest stretched, we want to think of either a chicken or driving our chest forward and up, right? Like this, like trying to basically touch our forehead with our chest, like this, right? and do that, another motorbike, while doing the concentric, right? So let me demonstrate really quickly the way most people will do this, and I think that this is fair if you have any type of shoulder issues and you're trying to rehab or you're trying to keep your shoulders as healthy as possible. I think that this can work. So people will do something like this, right? Protracting at the top. Usually this is to get a maximum contraction of the chest, right? Fully adducting the humerus. Or they'll do this to basically work this muscle right here that I can't remember the name. So serratus anterior, that one. So what I'm going to recommend if you want to maximize your chest hypertrophy results is you start off with the setup, you slowly lower as you drive your chest forward. Again, a gravity assisted row, right? We get to the maximally stretched position. This one is for me. We pause for a couple of seconds to really adjust yourself and really contract the upper back, and then up and forward, right? Up and forward. And we keep it like this through every single repetition. Like that. And it looks as difficult, it is as difficult as it looks. This is going to be a massive rep drop up, especially if you include the tempo tip, and you're probably going to have to either go back progression, or reduce the weight, or reduce the reps, or all of them. So this is really powerful, and it's going to reduce fatigue and increase the stimulus as much as possible. So that's for the first tip. Maximize the stretch. Now we go on to the next tip, which is going to be biasing. So for the next tip, we're going to talk about biasing, which includes basically targeting more of the chest as a whole, or focusing more on the upper chest. I don't think you can really isolate the lower chest without the middle chest taking over or being involved at least. So if you want to focus more on the upper chest, there are basically two ways of doing it. There's a bonus one that I'm going to mention, but it's not that relevant. So there are two ways you can do this. The first one is the classic way, the same way you would do with a bench press, right? Instead of doing a flat bench, right, you do an incline bench, and that's it. The same applies here. Instead of incline, is decline, right? You elevate your feet, so your feet are higher than your head. So if you want to target more of the upper chest, instead of doing ring push-ups with your feet on the floor, you do ring push-ups with your feet on a chair, or in my case, a roulette, just because it has a higher incline, so I can arch even more. And on top of that, it makes the movement more difficult because it modifies the leverages for you to handle a higher percentage of your body weight. So fairly simple to show. Just allow me to move this. There we go. You basically elevate the feet and go as usual, right? Go down, out with your feet, elevate. And as you can see, you imitate an incline press. Now, if you want to spice it up, you can do this in isolation or with the incline, as you wish. It's going to make it way more difficult. It's playing with hand position. From neutral to supinated, you're going to be using way more upper chest, and from neutral to pronated, you're going to be using way more chest as a whole. So if your goal is to grow your chest as a whole, recommend you doing pronated. But if you want to bias it towards the upper chest, do it more supinated, do it more RTO style. You can do it fully supinated, which is going to also put a higher strain on the biceps. I don't have an issue with that, but you may. It's going to be safer on the shoulders as well. But also, you can try supinated 45 degrees, which is going to target, in my opinion, the upper chest more. It's going to put less strain on the biceps, and it's going to be, well, basically the same safety as going fully supinated in terms of the shoulders, because you're basically certainly rotating it. This modification of the hand position is going to change the leverages and make it more difficult. So if you think you can do, for example, 10 ring push-ups, right, regular, and think that going supinated is going to reduce it to 8, no, you're not going to be able to do a single repetition. If you can do 20, you're probably going to be able to get 3 or 4, but trust me, this is very, very difficult. So, we basically start off, right? And instead of going down like this, right, we supinate. And we go down like this. As you can see, it aligns with the clavicular fibers of the chest. And on top of that, when you go for the contracted position, even though it's not that relevant for hypertrophy, when you go onto the contracted position, it allows you to better squeeze that portion of the upper chest. Not only stretches it further, but it also allows you to maximally contract. So if you want the ultimate upper chest builder, you can combine these two if you're strong enough, although I doubt you're going to get that many repetitions. So you elevate the feet, right, and you supinate. And you go to down like this. So that's the vanilla, let's just say full RTO push-up. You can also do it, if you want to only get the contracted position, you can go down pronated or neutral as you want to. Again, the benefits of the rings is that you can freely move yourself, right? And then, when you go up, you RTO at the top. This is going to only impact the contraction, so it doesn't really matter. And the bonus I wanted to give you is that when you go up, instead of thinking of pushing in a vertical line, right, just up, think of pushing up and up, right? Pushing up and forward, right? This is going to resemble more of a flight for the upper chest. It's going to align with the fibers a little bit better, so you may get a little extra in terms of your upper chest development. So instead of doing like this, right, you do something like this. As you can see, it targets the upper chest a little bit more. So that's for the biasing effect. And again, you can play with the incline angles, the arching, you can play with a lot of stuff. But the basics is biasing. You can either supinate 45 degrees, and positioning basically. And the other one, which is elevating your feet. And that's the main ways you can bias towards the upper chest. We're going to move to the final section, which is going to be difficulty scaling. Finally, for the difficulty scaling, what we are going to basically be talking about is ways you can make the movement more difficult. Although I have mentioned in the biasing section that supinating and elevating the feet are ways of making the movement more difficult, especially the supination aspect. There are other ways of making the movement more difficult. I'm going to outline two, basically. Well, three, actually. So the first one is a fairly straightforward one, and it's going to be to lean forward and to keep yourself leaning forward if you want to. So basically, on a regular push-up, right, you basically go up and down. Let me just explain. You go up and down in an arc, right? So you go down and then you push a little bit backwards. What I'm telling you to do is to lean forward, right? Basically, if you want, you can flex your calves to make sure you're leaning forward and keep yourself leaning forward throughout the whole movement, and that's going to modify the leverages so you're using a higher percentage of your body weight. So you're like this, you lean forward, right? And you keep yourself leaning forward throughout the whole movement. Like this. You can basically make sure you're leaning forward by just putting all of the weight in the tip of your toes. So that's the first one. The second one is related, and it's going to be to basically put your hands closer to your center of mass. So that be your hips, right? This, and I recommend you assume a neutral grip for this endeavor. So you put yourself here, and you drive your hands closer to your hips. This is going to turn it into more of a pseudo planche push-up, and trust me, I can barely get 2 reps of these. It's very difficult, so if you think you're strong enough to merit putting weight in your ring push-ups, just drop your hands down closer to your hips and let me see you whimper like a little bitch. So again, drive hands closer to hips, go down, and keep them there. Don't do this. Although you can if you want to overload the eccentric. But again, if you think that ring push-ups are too easy, give this one a shot. So that's the second way of making it more difficult. And then the last one, which in my opinion is more chest bias, because leaning forward and putting your hands closer to your hips is going to target a little bit more shoulders, although not that much. But this one is pure chest. So we widen the straps apart as much as possible, right? And then we really make sure to stretch the chest, right? So we can use the maximizing stretch tips, but trust me, this alone is going to absolutely break. So as you can see, I'm stretching the chest even further, especially if you have a pronated grip, by the way. So I'm stretching the chest like crazy. And then, when going up, it's a hassle. It turns into more of a guillotine press. So this is going to absolutely demolish your chest. And as a last thing, what you can try also is going down in a fly motion, right? With this, the straps wide apart, and then bringing them closer and pushing up to really do a barrel press with the reins. And this is going to absolutely destroy your chest. So those are the ways you can scale difficulty, and you can combine them. You can also go unilateral, by the way. I didn't mention this because, I mean, who can do, let's just say, 10 one-arm ring push-ups or archer ring push-ups? Not a lot of people, but you can. You can do something like this. So, there we go. So you're with the rings, right? You can do something like this. As you can see, these are really, really tough. And you don't need a lot of good technique to do this because it's very stable. Maybe if you do it one hand at a time, it can be difficult, and it is. But again, you have a lot of stuff to play with, and you can combine them. So you could elevate the feet, supinate, lean forward, right, and drive your hands towards your hips, and trust me, you're not going to get a single repetition. So whoever tells you that bodyweight ring push-ups are easy, they're full of shit, okay? You don't need to add weight. You just need to find the correct variation for you. Although you can add weight, don't get me wrong, you don't need to. So that's for the final tip, and hope you guys enjoy. As always, leave me your thoughts in the comments below. I always appreciate it, and let me know how the tips go. Thanks for watching.